Okay, so that one's done. So now I can do this one. This one only requires crystal, okay. And then I should be able to at least get a little bit more here. So while we're waiting on that, let's find out if this is even gonna make a difference and help anything. So we're gonna do a screen grab. Nope, wrong one. Let's take a look at this component right here. I need my snipping tool. And let's just grab that. And we're going to drag that over there. And the other reason we were doing all of this to begin with was also to try and make this thing cheaper. To try and lower the cost of some of this stuff so we can grow this thing a little faster. And let's do a little screen grab of that one. We had that on your server last incursions. They even told us that's what they would do, started a whole server war. I don't doubt it. I do not doubt that one bit. Incursions is a great way to mess around with people and, really tick off a whole lot of people all at the same time. Like a player going rogue and just hitting everybody, like, can accomplish certain things. He can, stir up the hornet's nest a little bit and really get people riled up. When you purposely tank an incursion and everybody loses and you get hundreds of people mad at you, some people really thrive on that type of attention. All right, so we're doing our station upgrade research here, all the way out in G5 land. Now that we're at Ops 57, we can start to do some of these other things here. So sustainable, this one's going to lower the cost of research. Because now I can then kick this over component stability, sustainability here. So I'm lowering the basic material cost another 25%. We took some screen grabs of a couple of ships beforehand. And let's just take a peek and see what it looks like afterwards. And hopefully, there'll be a decent enough decrease in some of this stuff that, 25% isn't a whole lot, but at Ops 57 now, it was at tier 4 here where it's 100% bonus. I should be able to get it all the way up to tier 7, but I'm sure I'm going to have to leapfrog and do a whole bunch of other researches in this area, which are going to require G5 materials, so I may not be able to take it all the way there, just because of some of the other prerequisites. I'm sure that'll be involved. But even if I can get, 1 or 2 levels out of it and get maybe 50%, hopefully that'll lower some of the tritanium costs quite a bit, because some of these numbers get a bit ridiculous. And if we pull up the graphics that I just saved here, this was the Sanctus, this was the Jellyfish. So the Jellyfish for this component at tier 9, it's only 570 million. Still pretty high for that level of ship. But here, my tier 5 Sanctus, we're talking about 877 billion. So just shy of 900 billion per component. Any little thing that reduces that is going to be greatly appreciated. So let's see exactly what we get here. We got a few helps. We lowered the time a bit there. We can use some of these speed ups for the rest of it. Oh, I can take the next level too. Okay, so let's do this one. We'll get that working while we're waiting on the helps. Let's see what our 25% got us. We go look at the Sanctus. We go look at our upgrade. Where's our comparison screenshot? So this was the component. It went from 877 to 856. If we pull this over here. So we went from 877 down to 856. So that 25% reduction, if we do our little math here, 856.3, 877.3. We got about 2.5% net because of all the other research and diminishing returns and things. But even still, 2.5% was 21 billion tritanium. Depending on what level you're at, you're going to feel that accomplishment, or that impact in different ways. As you see here, I've got 3.6 trillion. So saving 21 billion is a nice little savings. I'll take it. If we think about some of these other stuff, like what do I get out of my Monavine refinery every day? I think I get like 12 or 16 billion or something out of here. So if it saved me a pull out of my Monavine refinery, I'll take that as a win. And now we're going to do that again because I can get one more component level out of here. So hopefully that'll drop it another 20 billion. And we'll actually see some reasonable savings out of here. Three, two, one. All right, thanks for the helps, guys. Let's speed this up the rest of the way. I'd love people leave things in the comments about the way that I use, the ratio of my latinum and my speed ups and things like that. People love to leave comments in the YouTube videos about that. Because like, oh, you don't just dump all latinum into it, or I like the way you sort of balance and you'll use like some hour speed ups, some minute speed ups, even though you have all the latinum to do it, or you have I have 15,000 or whatever 3-hour speed ups. Like you could just dump them all into that and save the latinum, and it's like I'm not really hurting for either one at this point. So, all right, so let's see where we got here. It was at 856. Now it's down to 836. So it did save me another 20 billion there. And the jellyfish, we didn't look at that one in between, but that's okay. The jellyfish went from 571 down to 541, so I saved 30 million there, which again, all relative based on your ops level and stuff. Hopefully now we can do some of the other parts, because while lowering tritanium costs is great, what I really wanted was more ship components and basic materials here. This is going to get me a 20% reduction in crystal gas and ore, which I will happily take that. And actually, while we're doing that, let's speed this one up. Because if I can do component stability here, now see that one requires rare. So we might hold off on that one because it requires rare materials, and I want to make sure I can do some of these other ones. That one requires gas, and I've got a ridiculous amount of gas, so okay. Sure, why not? Let's start that one. right, so this is going to lower those costs. We needed just over 9,000 rare materials for that, plus another 3,100 in uncommon gas. Hopefully it'll, I mean, anything you can do to lower the cost of rare materials is always a win. Also, anyone notice that the server the last 2 or 3 days has had a lot of these lag spikes where you're in the middle of doing an action and you just get stuck and you have to wait for it to time out? Because I've noticed that the last like 2 or 3 days. There have been a number of issues with that. All right, so we just got 20% of more of a reduction, and this one I can afford as well, so let's get that one started. We'll get another 25% on top of that. And let's just take a peek. Now again, you could play around with all this stuff in Spox Club. You don't have to actually do the research and then look at the numbers. But since we're doing the research anyway, let's look at the numbers right here live in game. So that was a heck of a reduction. That 20% reduction in cost just saved me over 400 rare crystal, which is a pretty sizable decrease there. And as far as the uncommon goes, it was about 150. If we pull our calculator back up. That was more like a 5% reduction. So that 20% actually got me a 5% net gain, which is pretty solid. It's pretty solid. I'll take that though. Brian's asking how I got 75,000 of those cosmic particles. When you're in G5 player, you get them for doing your dailies. And I have not done a lot of this particular research because I've been waiting on certain materials or other roadblocks along the way. So it's just been stockpiling for a long time. Occasionally you also get them too, and like they'll throw them in like a milestone of a battle pass or something like that. And then there are other researches that you can do to increase your efficiency, which I guess I should do and finish up right now as long as I'm doing things to make things more efficient. I should lower the cost of my cosmic particles. All right, so we went down pretty significantly. Give that another minute to get a couple more helps on it. So we went down to, what, 8,500, we said? Yeah, 8,578, okay. And the jellyfish over here. Didn't go down as much. It went from 895 to 849, so that only went down to about 50. So I certainly have a lot more things that are lowering the cost of G4 ship components and things, probably a prime or something like that that might be active, compared to G5 materials, because I'm not seeing a whole lot of reduction here. The rare went down to a little over 100, maybe 115, 117. So not as big of a drop. But again, every little bit helps. It's the ship parts one that I'm really excited about getting upgraded next here. Tal says you've seen the same thing. You've had 3 to 5 minutes waiting sometimes. Yeah, I've actually at some point in times where I just get stuck. I'll log out and reboot the game just to go back in and be able to finish up whatever mechanic I was working on. Sometimes it's even things just like claiming your dailies. Hit the claim all button and it just sort of just sits there spinning and you're like, okay, great. And then you'll reboot and you'll log back in and it's already says it's claimed. So you're like, okay, well, I guess it's there. I guess it was done. I'll just have to take the word for it that it worked. Let's finish up this particle research. Particle man, doing all the things that a particle can. That is an actual song that will now be stuck in your heads. Hopefully not all day. All right, so this is going to get us another 25% further reduction of material costs here. Oh, and we can take it one more. Let's do that. It's, yeah, we're using rare or uncommon ore here to do that. So let's take this down too. You are very welcome, Lord Ascaron. It's a catchy tune. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, Google it. It's fun. Okay, so let's see where we ended up. Let's see where we ended up now. We went down to 85.78. Now we dropped it another, yeah, about the same. So if we're doing those two upgrades, we've dropped our cost a full 1,000 here, basically. Again, not so much on the uncommon side. The uncommon only went down like 325. But I dropped almost 1,000 rare materials. And that can definitely save a lot of time with upgrades. And now we're going to get one more upgrade going on it too. Killer, I'm assuming you posted a link to the video, so thank you. Let's grab a drink here while we have a second. Oh, let's. Since we don't, you know what? There might be some PvP today. There might be some PvP. What are we doing? Actually, I'm an idiot. I should have looked to see if there were any territory fights going on right now. Yep. Anybody? Well, that alliance joined that. Can I go over there and just kill some of them real quick? To get that other stupid event done. I don't know how many people I'll be able to kill, but with only a minute. "45 seconds. How many kills can we get? How many kills do we really need? I think I only needed like 4 or 5. I'm getting 19 points per kill. I think I need 410 total points to finish this event. So it's not going to quite get me enough. But I'll take it. It's obviously a nice head start. This will be the last one I get out of here. Because I'm pretty sure only ones during active TCs count. You know what? Hey, let's find out. Is it any fight in territory, or is it only during an active territory? Only during an active territory. Okay, so I snoozed. I should have done it a little. We'll put up a 4-hour shield, and maybe we'll try again in an hour. But hey, we got a few more TC season passes, got a few more emblems out of this event. Waves reset. Okay, so waves reset as well, so you have 3 days to do your next wave. And this one here is 420 points. Thank you, Killer. Oh yeah, 30 minutes, right, because this is the end of that one. Thank you, Norwich, before I did the same thing again, right? Okay, so we pick up this milestone. I might as well just grab that because there's no reason to save that one. All right, and let's go back and look at our research again. Back to what we were doing. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. So we're going to squeeze another 25% out of this one. And now I have to get to 59 to go up any further than that. So we went from 80% up to 150%. So a nice 70% gain in ship cost materials. Now we're going to try and do the same thing over here with ship components. And that 70% definitely had a bigger impact on the G5 materials than it did on the G4. Because if we look at our Sanctus again, nope, that's not what I wanted. There we go. If we look at our Sanctus again, this is what we were when we started. We gained 70% of an efficiency. 7656, 9013. We'll call that 85%. So 70% became like a 15% net difference. And this is why, if you knew what these things were going to yield ahead of time, you might be less inclined to do some of them or spend money on them, which is why we were talking about earlier about putting like the percentages of things in game. Probably not something we're ever going to happen, but thankfully there are websites like Spox Club where you can play around with this kind of stuff so you can see just what kind of value you're getting for your investment. And this one, I'm happy with this one. This is a nice sizable decrease here. 1500 rare material is a pretty sizable decrease, so for sure. Now, as for the jellyfish over here, this one's going to have less of a decrease because there's a lot more research I have that's going into G4 stuff. So as you can see here, I went from 895 down to 754. So that was only about 140 drop there. But maybe it's the same percentage. It is. It's the same 15%. The numbers, I guess, are just smaller, so it just seems like a smaller decrease. But it's still a 15% drop. Yeah, same 15% decrease across the board. Okay. That should hopefully lead to some better upgrade possibilities. Lube, thanks for stopping by and hanging out, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Justin says if it can be acquired free to play, acquire it. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I know sometimes when people start looking at, is this Prime worth it? Which is a question I get asked a lot. Every time a new Prime comes out every month, what do you think about this? Do you think this is worth it? And it looks like it's going to be a percentage, but, and it's like, well, it always depends on how much other research and things you've done, what other building upgrades and things like that you've done. And you kind of have to do the math. I know it's not the fun thing to do. And thankfully, again, you have the ability to customize and play around with stuff because of Spox Club. And then you can make yourself a nice informed decision. And a lot of times, again, some of this research you really do run into diminishing returns on. Are all my favors maxed? Probably not. My Bajoran ones, yes. All of my Bajoran favors are done, except for this one related to the Defiant because it's only tier 11, not tier 12. All the Bajoran favors are maxed. The Exborg ones, some of these we have for ship parts and things. These are the parts: plunder, emergency protocols, no. Assembly line ones. I've got the Interceptor one maxed. I've got the Explorer one maxed, because those are the ships that we're working on. The other ones still need a few more levels. That's a good thing, though, to also show, and we've got quite a bit there going on. Hey, wait a minute. What is that final component? Is it 57? Is it 58? 58, okay. So 58 I can max the Talios out, and probably max out the Defiant. It's probably the same thing, right? I feel like they're very similar. Oh, actually, no. I have the final Defiant component. I just may not have enough of the other specialty materials, the rares and things like that, yeah. Okay. If Barkman was a content creator, he'd research the new primes and give an answer similar to me, prime blah 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 research is worth 0.0025% of one's annual net income. Well, Barkman, you go right on. Why don't you have a channel, Barkman? Come on, come join the club. Start up a channel. You can do all the math and analytics you want like that, and tell people those answers. I guess the other part of the problem too is, of course, everybody's annual income is different, right? If you're making, $10 an hour flipping burgers versus if you're making, $50 an hour welding pipes, obviously it's going to have a different significance to you in terms of all of these things. You have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old? There you go. Put them on stream too. No, I'm just kidding. What level of crit floor research do you need to use Hue again with the Xindi? It should be at least tier 4, I think, is where you want that one. If you get it to tier 4 at 70% and you have hull breach, you still come out ahead by doing critical damage. If it's lower than that, even with the hull breach, it's still a reduction. So it'll still be lower than your regular damage cost. But if you have tier 4 at least, as long as you hit the hull breach to go along with Hue, your total damage will be higher than a regular attack would be. Oh, I suppose that's true. Okay. Well, you got me there, Barkman. You got me there. Okay, let's go back and let's look at some ship parts now, because that's the one that we were really getting stuck on, was the part cost. And let's finish this one up. So we're kind of going to get the same thing, right? Hopefully. So again, we're going from 80%, hopefully all the way up to 150, getting that full 70% reduction. And let's take a look and see what our ship parts decreased. Whoops, we need that back up. Give me the Sanctus. So our ship parts here didn't go down as much as I had hoped. That 20% reduction, we went down 50,000 uncommon parts. No, 500 uncommon parts. because that was 15,600, and now it's 15,100. So it went down 500 parts, and we only went down 50 rare parts. So that was not as big of a decrease. And over here on the jellyfish, we went from 1,002 down to 972. So that's only 30 parts. Again, it was about 1,000, so we went down, what, 3%? So a little less exciting on the material on the ship parts one, but we're going to get another 2 upgrades out of that as well. And hopefully get a few more percentages out of that. What's up, Carissa? Your efficiencies are so high, anything less than hundreds of percentages will do almost nothing. Yeah, I think we've all run into those diminishing returns on a lot of that stuff, but any little bit you can squeeze out will save you time and money in the long run for sure. Which also just reminded me, I think my, shield is down over here, so let's extend that a little bit longer. All this talk about cheeseburgers is making me hungry now. Let's go get some lunch soon. You just woke up? That sounds nice. Ooh. Turned my head too quick. Got a little dizzy there for a second. All right, so we're going to get a little bit more out of here. A little bit more. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. That's another 25%. Now this one requires rare materials to do, so I will not be able to do that upgrade. Shocker that the material one didn't cost any rare materials, but the ship parts one, the one that people have said for a while that they're having a bigger problem with completing and struggling with more, is getting more ship parts, especially rare ship parts. This is the one that has a higher research cost to complete. Okay. Sounds like a problem which can be solved by buying more packs. Oh, I'm sure that's exactly what how you're supposed to solve that problem. I'm good. I'm sure we'll have some more events coming up that'll give some more resources. We finished our ticket event. We'll go out and kill stuff with an interceptor in a little bit. So let's see exactly what we got here. Sanctus. So we ended up bringing it down a little over 100. So not a great savings on the ship parts. A little over 100 on the rare. I mean, again, that's if we just look at a mathematical percentage, about 7% for 45% worth of research yielded about a 7% net gain. Not ideal, which means if we add the other 25% for the next level, the one that's going to cost me the rare materials to do, we'll end up somewhere with about a 10% net reduction. That'll be 70% of research we'll have done, yielding a 10% net reduction, again because of all the other things that go into it. Okay. That was a fun little experiment. Obviously, we've made some adjustments and things, and I don't think even if I had any multiphasics that it would probably be this one that would have the rare in it, right? That's got 29. That's only got 16. Usually the research ones, that's only got 16. So yeah, I'd have to do the battleship pack, and I have nowhere near enough to get the numbers they're talking about, so. Bark been asking, is that because I prioritized the ship part efficiency chronometric particle research? Well, that's what we were just looking at, right? Was the ship part efficiency. Or are you talking about, you're talking about the other prime, not the chronometric one. You're talking about these. This prime with the dolomite particles. Yeah, that could be too. Might be a little less returns on investment there because I did work more on the ship part prime here to get a bigger return on investment there, and obviously quite a ways away from upgrading this any further. So that could be another reason for seeing some of these different numbers and how things, pan out there in terms of costs, because this prime is lower at only 45%, whereas this one's 140%. So I'm seeing less return on that future research because of more dolomite invested into this prime research. Good call out.